Good morning, students. In this previous video, we have started lesson number 6. It is object-oriented concept. The previous video, we have seen the introduction of this. Also, we have seen that which type of objects are there. Live example also we have seen, as well as we have discussed about properties and attributes, as well as we have discussed about the class. And as well as I have explained this diagram to you, that here you can see the person is your class. This is your attributes like name, city, gender, birth date, and profession. And objects are this all. Whatever the data will be entered, that all known as an objects. Now moving to the today's concept, that today we will see the introduction of the class diagram. How class diagram will be made. So here you can see that the class diagram presents a collection of classes, constraints, and relationship among classes. So for making the class diagram, UML can be used for create models of object-oriented softwares to help with the design of an application. UML means Unified Modeling Language will use for creating this. UML is a visual modeling language defined and maintained by the OMG, that means Object Management Group. ये जो UML है वो visual modeling language है, like whatever visual means you can tell, like making of the table. With the help of the table we can make the UML diagram. UML specifies several diagrams for representing different aspects of software application. So the purpose of the class diagram is to model the static view of an application. यहाँ पे हमारा purpose क्या है class diagram को create करने के लिए? To model our static view in the application. हमको static view रखना है अपने application. So this class diagram are the only diagram which can be directly mapped with object-oriented languages and thus widely used among the software developers. ये जो class diagram है वो एक ऐसा डायग्राम है कि वो डायरेक्टली मैप्ड होता है किसमें, इन द ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड लैंग्वेजेस में. So in class diagram, a class is represented with an icon using a rectangle split into three sections like present name, their attribute and their behavior. अब यहाँ पे starting the very important thing that class diagram कैसे represent होता है. Class diagram represent होता है in a rectangle split in the three sections. They are divided in the three sections. In that, what is your first will be your present name, another will be your attribute, and last is your behavior. Now the step is described in details, like you can see first is name of the class in the top section. आपका जो क्लास का नाम आपको रखना है वो टॉप सेक्शन में आएगा. Like in the previous example I have told you, the person is your class. Another is attributes or properties of the class in the middle. That means whatever the attributes and the properties of the class, that should be in the middle section. And the last is that behavior or the operation or the method of the class in the bottom section. In figure number 6.2 shows the pictorial representation of a class using UML convention, while in figure number 6.3 the class diagram of a person. So now in the below section you can see the and refer the class representation in UML convention, like at the first your class name, whatever you keep, like details, person or student details, specific class name you can give. Then after visibility attribute means in the visibility attribute, firstly you have to mention your data type, and this is your initial value. Initial means this is your first value in each and every record. This is your first value. Next after that, visibility operations, that means argument list in the return type. So this is the class representation in UML convention. Moving to the next table, here you can see this is a diagram of a class. Which class? A person class. मीन्स जो हमने क्लास प्रिपेयर किया था, ठीक है, पर्सन नाम का, उसका यहाँ पे डायग्राम है, डायग्राम ऑफ द क्लास। यहाँ पे सबसे पहले क्या मेंशन किया? पर्सन। उसके बाद आप इससे पहले का भी इमेज रिफर कर सकते हो। 6.1 पर्सन के क्लास में हमने क्या क्या रखा था? नेम, सिटी, जेंडर, बर्थ डेट एंड प्रोफेशन। दिस इज अ डायग्राम ऑफ क्लास। नेम, name, this is your first value, that means this is your initial value. Name की data type क्या होगी? String. Name की data string, because name is always we are mentioning in which? We are mentioning in the alphabets. We are mentioning in the alphabets. So name will be string. City same in string. Gender, in gender they have mentioned a character like M and F. M for male and F for female. Next to that, birth date. Birth date, birth date obviously we are mentioning in the date, that's why date in time, but right now we can keep the date. And profession in the string. Next to that, you can see they have stated something for birth date and city. So here you can see that set birth date in DMY, date, month and year. But date, month and year, it always in the int. Int means integer, means we are placing in the number. And date change city, the new city will mentioning the string, and string will be displayed at the last. The next page you can see that the class person is intended to provide information that is useful in understanding the role of the class in the context of the class diagram. It does not have to contain every attributes and operations of the class as seen in the figure 6.2. In UML notation. An attribute is declared using the following syntax: visibility, attribute name, attribute data type, and initial value. So here you can see that items written in pair of square brackets are optional. जो भी items यहाँ पे square brackets में लिखी हुई है वो सब optional है, and user is supposed to specify the value for items enclosed in a angle brackets. Just user have to mention that values only which are in the enclosed angle bracket. Visibility can be private, protected, public, or package respected using this type of symbols. But we will study about visibility in the later chapter. Visibility हम कौन सी भी रख सकते हैं, like private, protected, public, or using the different packages represented using this symbol. But about this visibility we will see later. Right now the attribute generally refers to a variable. Attribute क्या refers करता है? It's referring the variable. Here the data type and initial value identify the type of data stored and its value at the start of the program. Means आपका program start जब होगा तब data type and जो initial value है वो identify करनी होगी. Identify, they are identifying the data is storing the value while starting the program. So here as you can see that only attribute name is mandatory. In the diagram we have seen the attribute name is only mandatory and all others are the optional. Here some example of declaring attributes are shown below. You can see name as string. हमने देखा था फर्स्ट हमने जो एट्रीब्यूट मेंशन किया था, नाम और उसकी डेटा टाइप क्या होनी चाहिए? स्ट्रिंग्स. मीन्स data type will be string. String means we are storing the name in the alphabet. That's why in this language we are storing that name will be string. And also balance, like float equal to 0 0. So the next is given that as seen in the figure number 6.2 in UML notation, an operation is declared using this method. Now seeing about the operation, like how date and time we are mentioning, how the gender we are mentioning. For that, the syntax is visibility, your method name, and after your parameter list separated by comma. Parameter list by list you have to mention the comma, like we are mentioning the date, but how? DMY. D means date, M means month, and Y means year. And at the last, your return data type. So an example of a method in the previous example is set birth date. हम एक एग्जाम्पल देखते हैं मेथड का, बट उसके लिए आप प्रीवियस एग्जाम्पल देख सकते हो क्लास डायग्राम का, कि हमने वहाँ पे बर्थ डेट सेट की थी. सेट बर्थ डेट, इन दैट व्हाट वी हैव डन, डी कॉलन आई एन टी मीन्स इंटीजर देन कॉमा. इससे पहले सिंटेक्स में ही मैंने आपको बताया था कि तो आपका पैरामीटर है, ठीक है, उसको आपको सेपरेट करना है यूजिंग द कॉमा. डी एम एन वाई, डी इंटीजर, डेट इन इंटीजर, कॉमा मंथ इन इंटीजर, and you are also in the integer. Here the parameter can be specified with data type and the optional default value. For example, in gender, CHAI character M parameter can also be specified as input or output depending on whether it is read only or route. Read only or not. Now here UML diagram are independent of the programming language used for coding and application. UML diagram के लिए बेटरली यूज होता है for coding and application. Like some software developers prefer to specify attributes and operations in the more familiar format of a programming language instead of using standard UML notation. That's fine as long as it makes sense to everyone to concerned. Objects are presented using their state during execution of an application. Thus, objects are dynamic. Corresponding to figure number 6.1, add object, also called as instance, of class diagram is represented in shown figure number 6.4. यहाँ पे देखो एक आपको चीज बताइए, ऑब्जेक्ट आर डायनामिक. यहाँ पे जो ऑब्जेक्ट है वो डायनामिक है. ना हियर I am telling you the difference between of what is static and dynamic. Dynamic means it's continuously changing, and static means same as it is. Whatever you are seeing, same as it is will be displayed. That means static. And dynamic means it's currently changing, means it's continuously changing. So here you can see object of P1 and P2 of class person. P1 person name, city, gender, birth date and profession. P2 means person 2 name, city, gender, birth date and profession. Here you can see name we have taken in the string, city also we have taken in the string, gender we have taken in character like M and F, male and female, birth date we have taken in DMY, date, month, year, and profession whatever the user will be enter. So students, today we are keeping till here. Today we have seen that how we can draw a class diagram of a particular class. How it will be mentioned, at the first you have to mention the class name, then after your visibility attribute, your data type, and then after your visibility operation, whichever you have to mention. Here also same process has been made. Firstly they have defined the class name, then attributes whichever you have to take, then whatever the operations is required for this diagram. Like for default we have to take the date, month, year. For entering the birth date we have to keep like this, date, month and year. You also keep like month, date and year. It's in your hand. And as well as in this you can see that we have also make the class diagram आफ्टर टू ऑब्जेक्ट्स हैज बीन एंटर इन पर्सन, यहाँ पे दो ऑब्जेक्ट एंटर हुए हैं, ठीक है, ऑब्जेक्ट P1 एंड ऑब्जेक्ट P2, और इसका डायग्राम भी आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हो। तो थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन।